So today we're looking at our final day in the DT23 course, and we're all focused on taking an exam next week, which will be our final exam, and will be a comprehensive exam covering all the topics that were covered during this 16-week semester. So for this class, I'm sort of like an exam prep, I guess you'd call it. And I started off by finding this, I think it's an appropriate infographic on taking tests, tips for taking tests. And it's always good, even if you're good at taking tests, sometimes it's good to remember the basics so that you don't have a bad experience, even though you normally do well on tests. If you normally have anxiety or feel stressed during tests, which that's the way I am, um, these are well grounded tips on how to make it go as good as it can, right? So we're going to familiarize ourselves with the test structure today in this video. So that's sort of the point of this video. The other thing is don't cram a bunch of stuff in your head at the last minute. Try and review the various PowerPoints that we've covered, and I'm going to show you where they are in the learning materials. Um, review them gradually over the course of a couple of days or sessions, and don't try to do it all at the last minute. Remember, the main thing is to know where the resources are so that you can find them during the exam. This exam is set up so that you don't have to have things memorized. You just have to be familiar with the vocabulary so that you go, oh, isometric. Got to go find that PowerPoint on isometric and make sure I know the answer to that question. Um, this is a time-limited test. It limits out at 2 hours. That's plenty of time for you, but just in case you like to use your full time amount, make sure that you have a way to keep track of the time while you're taking the test so that you don't get rushed at the last minute. Whether you're taking the test remotely or arriving in a physical location, get yourself ready for your test before you start. Make sure you have your tools and your resources nearby. Have a beverage that can refresh you a little bit while you're working, because you're going to be working for quite a few minutes. And just make sure your workspace is set up as best you can for your test time. When you get your test, when you open it, look through the whole test. I always do this, and just sort of familiarize yourself. It's sort of like looking at the trail map before you take off on a hike. It's just sort of generally familiarize yourself. It's like, oh, I got 20 multiple choice questions. I'm going to go through and read every one of those. And then after that, I'm going to do a certain type, it looks like a certain type of drawing problem. Oh, and then it looks like maybe I have to do another ortho problem. Just sort of get it in your head, like this is what I have to do coming up, so that you sort of lowers your anxiety just by doing that. Read the questions carefully. Right? We have a lot of dense terminology, and just take your time and read the question. Maybe highlight keywords that you know are important to something, and then go find them in the references. Check your work. Don't just guess. Um, sometimes in orthographics, trust your instinct can be an unfortunate choice. You know, trusting your instincts, as we all know, um, is based on having a method for solving orthographic problems, because orthographic problems are not necessarily something you do intuitively, right? We use projectors and axes to measure and coordinate our views. So but if you are doing multiple choice questions and you're just thrown, yeah, use your instinct. Manage your time, and leave time to go back and do the ones that you maybe um, didn't feel comfortable with when you first looked at them. Maybe put a little mark by those, then come back to those so that you get a second chance to look at them. And that's when you might use your instinct. If you really don't know and you're saying, well, I think it's this one or that one, well, okay, eliminate the answer that you know it's not, and move on. But make sure you have time to go back and check your work a little bit, finish any little last minute things you want to do. It is hard to remember to breathe when you're doing all this cognitive stuff, and I think you'll notice that you do better if you do sort of consciously breathe, do some deep breathing, get your oxygen flowing. We're not this is not end of the world stuff. We can relax and breathe and let our minds work the best possible way, which is with plenty of fresh oxygen. um, People don't always appreciate that cognitive exercise, like solving an ortho problem in AutoCAD, is sort of like running. It taxes your body, it stresses your body in a mental way. And so drink some water, make sure you're rested. These are not just like, oh, maybe this will help you. No, this will help you. Just like you wouldn't run a marathon without any water. Don't expect to do a lot of cognitive work without stretching, breathing, drinking some water. And, this class is not that hard, but you will get into situations where maybe you're trying to pass a specific exam that makes or breaks your career, like a licensing exam. And those exams are sometimes all day long, and they can make or break your business plan or your education plan. So practice robust test taking strategies and use them and practice them here in this class, because this is a good building class if you're going on and doing more cognitive work, like if you're going to follow through with engineering, or even machine shop work can be very cognitive heavy. So anyway, I hope that helps you, and I'm going to carry on with this review on a second video, but this is the first part.